Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Hakodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us the truth, and a sincere shalom to the hopeful elect that's out there listening, learning, and or teaching the truth and sincerity. Shalom. All right, Akio. So today I want to go into a quick lesson, just talking about the Edomites. Okay, I've had it's been on my spirit to make a video about it, and I also seen, someone in the comments, confused about who the Edomites are. So, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll revisit this. We made hundreds of videos on it, but we'll go into it again. This time I want to bring out a different piece of evidence I found recently. It's pretty interesting. But so we'll go ahead and get started. I just typed in 167 BC into Google, and the AI overview, read my mind. It says the year 167 BC was pivotal, marked by the start of the Maccabean revolt in Judea. All right, so you could read about this Maccabean revolt in the book of 1st and 2nd Maccabees in the Apocrypha, which is located in the Holy Bible. All right, if you have a Bible from 1611, the year 1611, right, which that was the original Bible before the so-called white man stuck his hands in there and removed 14 books out of it, 13 or 14 depending how you look at it, but basically the Apocrypha. And we made videos on that too. You could look up the Bible Destruction Group, but basically the scriptures gives us that history, right? How the Edomites, you had Antiochus Epiphanes leading the Edomites, right? Antiochus being an Edomite himself, to attack Judea and to take our people over. Okay, but the Lord raised up Judas Maccabeus to fight against the Edomites. Okay, let's see here. We'll go read this again. It says a Jewish uprising against the Seleucid king Antiochus IV Epiphanes forced Hellenization, including desecrating the Jewish temple with a statue of Zeus, right, leading to Jewish guerrilla warfare and eventually rededication of the temple, right? Because our people won that revolt and were able to, keep their laws, statutes, commandments, right? They were able to rebuild the temple because Antiochus Epiphanes, his goal was to make our people stop worshiping the Lord and worship instead Zeus and other Greek idols. And basically, he wanted our people to become like the Greeks. And a lot of our people sold out to Antiochus, and a lot of our people, started living over there in Greece. And, for many generations, you had a lot of Israelites who now became Greeks. Okay, and they're going to interbreed with Greek women. And so the children will come out looking more light-skinned. But that's why in the Bible, the Lord talks about there is neither Jew nor Greek, because our people who were scattered in Greece and even all these other lands, who became like the people of those other lands, who adopted the customs and cultures of those other lands, guess what? They were still Israelites by blood. So through the blood of Yahushua, they're now able to come back, because, their parents and their grandparents were traitors to the Lord, but the Lord forgave them, allowed them to come back to being Israelites. Okay, that's why you see Jew and Greek in the New Testament, okay, which is a side story, but a side point, rather, because we're not going into that so much now, but just a little bit of history so y'all know what's going on. Okay, we're going to go into the Bible and read this history. This is 1st Maccabees chapter 5, and I'm going to get to that piece of evidence here, if you follow me, for a little bit. We'll get that piece of evidence after this quick scripture. It says, 1st Maccabees chapter 5 and verse 1. Now then the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before. It displeased them very much. Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them, and thereupon they began to slay and destroy the people. Right? So who came and tried to destroy our people? Verse 3, then Judas, right, Judas Maccabeus, fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arabatine. That's right, man. So the Edomites came up against us, man. The Edomites, let's make this bigger here. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arabatine, because they besieged Israel, and he gave them a great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils. Right? So the point being is talking about the Edomites, right? And you can read 1 Maccabees chapter 1. It goes into Alexander the Great, which also was an Edomite. Man, I got a picture of him here. Okay, there's Alexander the Great. You know, so these are the people that attacked our people. So clearly, the so-called white man is not the Israelites today. The so-called white man is an Edomite. All right, the children of Idumea. Let's get 1 Mac 1. Salakia. You gotta type the whole goddamn thing out. We used to be able to just type in the shortcut and it would do it, but now it's making you type it all in. 1 Maccabees 1:1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shechem, had smitten Darius, kings of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Right? Alexander, it's talking about Alexander the Great. Okay? He killed the king of the Persians and Medes, right? That was the previous empire before the Greek Empire came into power. So the Greek Empire was ruled by the so-called white man, right? Just like the American Empire, just like the ancient Roman Empire, right? So just grabbing that, all right, boom. And then from there, you read down, many generations later came Antiochus, the wicked root. Let's see if we can grab that here. Lord's will, we could find it. Give me 1 second. All right, verse 10. It says, and there came out of them a wicked root. Hang on. Yeah, real quick, man, real quick. It says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks, right? So, you know, the first Greek to rule was Alexander the Great, right here. Okay, now we're going to grab Antiochus, man, because we're reading about it here. Antiochus came, right? And then if we go back to where we were reading before that, it says, then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arbatine, because they besieged Israel, and he gave them a great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils, right? So these are the Edomites, man. Okay, now we have the year 167 BC, and I typed that into Google. 167 BC coin in ancient Greece, right? Because, you know, here in America, you look on the coins, it's got the picture of a ruler, a president, right? So let's look at it. Right here, it says the AR tetradrachm silver coin from 167 to 149 BC. And what does that look like to you? That's the so-called white man, as you can see. So the Edomites, right, those people that came up against the Jews, the real Jews, the people of the Lord, okay, those who came up against us are the Edomites, the so-called white man. So they came up against us back then, and they're coming up against us now. Okay, they've been coming up against us. Okay, now you got them coming down with great wrath through these ice raids, man. And you got people in the comments that still don't know who the Edomites are. You know, I gave him the proof about how the scripture says that his habitation is high, he dwells in the clefts of the rocks. And he said that was a weak evidence, but it's like, dude, it's just one little piece of evidence. If I have 1,000 pieces of what you call weak evidence, right? He might call this weak evidence. Well, that's just one coin. Well, how much evidence do you want, man? I gave you Alexander the Great. so-called white man, right? I gave you this coin, a so-called white man, okay? With those pointy noses they got, you see? All right? Let's read it again. First Maccabees 5:3. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arbatine, because they besieged Israel, and he gave them a great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils. Right, man. And you can even look up Antipater the Idumean, because Idumea is just another name for Esau. Antipater the Idumean, okay, goes into it, okay, was the founder of the Herodian dynasty, Herod, and the father of Herod the Great, according to Josephus. All right, a native Idumean, which is a region southeast of Judah in which the Edomites settled. Right, so it's Edomite land, Idumean, right? And they ruled over our nation, right? The Roman Empire had them ruling over Israel, right? That's it's like a puppet leader, right? Just like in Mexico, you got a puppet leader ruling Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum, which she's not Mexican, she's a JEW. Let's look it up. Claudia Sheinbaum. Real quick. Here we go. Boom. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo was born on the 24th of June in 1962 in Mexico City within a Mexican JEW-ish family. Right. So she's a chocolate-covered Edomite, or a caramel-colored Edomite, because according to her father's lineage, she goes back to the fake JEWs, the Khazars. Right. Those are the Khazars, which are nothing but Edomites, so-called white people, posing to be the real people of the land. These are not Israelites, these are Edomites, imposters. Okay? Edomite imposters. Just like they covered up the faces of the judges. The earth is given. Job 9:24, it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Who is the wicked? Malachi 1:4. We're proving all things here. Whereas Edom saith, right? Edom being the Edomites, Esau. We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness. Right? So Edom is the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh has indignation forever. So if you're an Edomite, the Lord hates you forever. All right? There will be no mercy or forgiveness. All right? And I want to make a quick point. Just because you look like a so-called white man doesn't automatically make you that, because it's all according to your it all goes back through your lineage on your father's side by blood. So you had some of our people that have bred with Edomite women, and their children came out light-skinned. That doesn't make you an Edomite. Okay, so there's a few Jakes sprinkled among these so-called white people. Okay, so just want to make that quick point. It's not about skin color, it's about lineage. This is Job 9:24. The earth is given into hand of the wicked, right? The Edomites. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Who are the judges, the rulers, the kings of the world to come? They are the Israelites. Who are the real Israelites today? The so-called Negroes, the so-called Latinos, and the so-called Native American Indians. How did he cover our faces? The original pictures of Yahushua and the apostles or disciples at the time were of so-called black men. Okay, so how did the ruler of the earth, right? We know the people that rule the earth are the so-called white people. How did they cover our faces? Okay, they did it like this with their paintings. They changed the image of the Lord to a so-called white man, and the images of the apostles and disciples to so-called white people. The scriptures, the biblical prophecy is saying it. We're going to read it again, man, because You know, this is simple stuff. Let's get right here. Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? The Edomites rule the world. That's the interpretation. He covered the faces of the judges thereof, right? So the Edomites covered our faces. If not, where and who is he? Right. If these people, the so-called white man, is not the wicked, then who else could it possibly be? This is a rhetorical question. Okay? So, you know, you've got to connect biblical prophecy, history, current events, and you can clearly see who the Edomites of the Bible are. I mean, there's a whole, it's carved into metal and metallic coins. You know, I mean, how much evidence do we have to bring out, man? Okay, and again, I'm going to say it again. This is just a small piece of evidence. We have much more evidence than this. Okay? But, you know, if you're of the elect, you're going to get it. You know, it'll click. Then you'll start thinking of other things that come to mind as well, right? But if you're a two-thirds Jake or a heathen, all right, you're just going to be lost because the Lord has blinded you. And it's not for you. This knowledge is not for everybody. This knowledge is not for dogs. Okay, this knowledge is for the children of Yahweh Shem Shai, and not even all of the children of Yahweh Shem Shai. It's for the elect. Because 2/3 of our people here in America will die in the Third World War when it goes nuclear. 2/3 of our people will be incinerated with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and the rest of our enemies, these other heathen nations that are here in America. Okay, because that, you know, this whole country is going to be covered with thermonuclear fire from sea to shining sea, man. All right. And, you know, that jackass on BitChute that was talking about calling me a left wing. It's like, dude, we're the furthest thing from left wing, bro. You know, you're more left wing than me. You Edomites are naturally left wing if you want to really get technical, because y'all the ones who like to sleep with other men. We don't do that shit. You're the alphabet people. I see, but because he's never seen this perspective before, all he knows is left and right. Right? Most of you Americans thinking it's Democrat or Republican, you're lost. You know, they're both wrong ideologies that lead to the same end of the tunnel. The same being lost and confused. Because those are two sides of the same coin, man. You know, no pun intended. But yeah, man, fucking, yeah, that guy talking all that shit, hey, you're gonna die here in America, man. That's your judgment. You will burn, you and your family will burn here in America, and you will be incinerated in Third World War. Okay? And for the other guy that was asking questions about, you know, who the Edomites are, hey, these are the Edomites right here, man. Okay? And if this truth resonates with you, okay, and you look like a so-called white man, you may be an Israelite. So, you know, it's all spiritual. Right? It's not about skin color at the end of the day, because we can't trace back our lineage. Okay, we can't always trace it back. Right? But this is a great indicator of history. And of course, the majority of people that look like this are Edomites. Right? Obviously. But there's exceptions to the rule. Okay, there's a few exceptions out there. Like I said, there's our people are sprinkled among every nation, right? You're gonna have so-called Chinese or so-called Africans that look like their respective nation where they're at, but they're not. They're Israelites according to the Bible, right? Based on their father's lineage by blood. Okay, so you know, that's pretty much the point. I just wanted to get that quick history lesson, quick, you know, showing you who the Edomites are through, you know, evidence that still exists today, man. You know, the coin being that piece of evidence. You know, they still have these coins from ancient Greece. So, there you go, man. The scriptures called them Edomites, and they put their faces on the coin. So this is who they are. These are the Edomites today. Same people ruling, right? And I brought that piece of evidence out earlier. Let's get 2nd Ezra's 6 and 29, right? Because the scripture here in Job 9:24 says the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. 2nd Ezra 6:9. Because for the longest time, these devils are going to be in rulership, man, since the Greek Empire until now. Okay. They've been ruling. And now, of course, there was a little time period where they weren't ruling. That was during the Dark Ages, right? That's that 1,000 years being stuck in the bottomless pit, roughly paraphrasing. But nevertheless, once they came back into power, you had what was that? The Renaissance period, right? And then eventually America rose into power, being just like the ancient Roman Empire. Same spirit, right? But that's why the scriptures tells us the Edomites will be ruling in the end of the world. So this is another way right here you can identify them. 2nd Ezra 6:9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, right? Jacob are the Israelites. As the scriptures say, the Israelites are going to rule the world forever in the kingdom of heaven. So what happens right before the kingdom of heaven? Esau being the end of the world, meaning Esau being the final rulers. Okay, so if you believe we're in the end times, ask yourself what race of people rules the world today. Okay, and if you're honest, you will say it's the so-called white man. So there you go. Esau, the so-called white man, is the ruler today, right? So if you believe in the Bible, it's telling you who these people are. Okay, so I think that's it, man. I don't want to beat a dead horse. With that, I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles, a great millstone that taught us His truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like this out there, listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom wa, abad babal.